Hello, friends. Welcome back. My name is Oscar Montesiga, certified wine and spirits instructor for the International Wine and Spirits Guild, and thanks for joining me at the Booze Library here at Uncork Vintage Academia. Today, I have a special guest. It's been a while since we had a featured colleague. I have Nic Eastwood with me. Welcome, Nic.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. And today we bring an episode that I don't think we've seen a lot in the past of compare and contrast three different expressions of a single, in this particular case, whiskey from distillery for a single brand or label. So we're tasting from High West Distillery, and I'm going to let Nic introduce himself a little bit more and better than I did. Welcome, and he'll tell us more about the brand as well.
Yeah, so like Oscar said, my name is Nic Eastwood. I am currently employed as a retail liquor store manager, and I am certified with the level 2 WSET in spirits as well as wine. But for today's purposes, the spirits is what matters. We're going to be tasting a Midwinter Night Dram, 3 different releases of it from the High West Distillery. The High West Distillery is a distillery out of Utah that both sources their whiskeys as well as has been distilling their own distillate for the past several years. And more they're adding this distillate into their blends. So in the case of a Midwinter Night Dram, it is going to be mostly MGP sourced rye whiskey as well as their own distillate. We know that it's a straight rye whiskey, a blend of straight rye whiskeys, so every single drop in the bottle is going to be at least 3 years old, aged in charred new American oak barrels, and predominantly rye. In the case, from what they tell us, it's going to be between 80% to 95% rye, depending on the percentage of MGP versus their own distillate, and the rest will be malted barley and corn, I think, that they source. And I'm very excited to try these 3 expressions. We've got the 2001 expression, I believe. I think that's the right year. Regardless, it is the Act 8 release. Then we've got the Act 9 release and the Act 10 release. Acts 8 and 9 that we have are both going to be Scene 2, which is just the bottling run. It shouldn't affect the actual character of the spirit very much. And the Act 10 bottle that we have is Scene 3. Again, that's just the bottling run, shouldn't affect the overall taste of the spirit.
And we have a trifecta here of bottles. It's unusual for me to present an unlabeled bottle, but one of these bottles is Nic's, one of these bottles is mine, and the other little bottle was a sample by a friend of mine, Jacob Capaldo. You get a shout out. Thank you for contributing to tonight's episode. Another, good whiskey head. So thank you, Jacob. Here, more than anything, if you're interested in whiskey production, of course, you can see another one of our episodes focusing more a little bit intricate of what it means to be a whiskey, or what it means to be a straight whiskey, what it means to be a blended whiskey, what it means to be a rye whiskey. As you know, if you've been following, rye whiskey is one of my favorite whiskeys. And also from High West, I've actually done an episode on their silver whiskey, which is mostly oat. Delicious. Check it out, please. Here we're going to start with what we said was Act 8, Scene 2. And just to give you the compare and contrast, we're going to go through each one of them, kind of bounce out what we both smell and taste, and see how they do compared to each other. For me, visually, they all look fairly similar. They all 3 have like a light honey color with a little bit of amber influence. The transition is almost like a straw yellow, but visually they're all fairly similar. Mm-hmm. On the nose, Act 8, what do you get?
Let's see. So for Act 8, I get a lot of the classic rye baking spice. Definitely the wood char in there. Of note, what makes this particular bottling special is that it is their Rendezvous rye, which is already a special release from the distillery. They finish it in port barrels to make this release for the Midwinter Night Dram. So we should be expecting some influence of those port barrels.
Right, and on their marketing and / labeling wording, they kind of compare this to something you want to have in a cold winter day. Very much akin to something like a fruit bread, a pan forte, something like a pudding with a lot of dried fruits. And I do see some of those qualities, including the baking spice Nic mentioned. For me, there's raisins. It's hard to not taste or smell raisins. A lot of menthol as well, so there's really bright, uplifting menthol qualities, and ginger spice for me as well.
Something I had written down actually was I'm getting kind of a chipotle little nose.
So spicy smoke, almost. I could see that. Here, my palate is pretty round. It has nice smoothness. I taste more fruit, very qualitative, baked fruit. Spices are there. There is something still somewhat tart, almost like tart cherries.
Yeah.
Like baked tart cherries, if you kind of visualize that.
Absolutely. Palate-wise, very nice coating effect. I don't get much astringency at all.
Right. It does have a pleasant finish, long, lingering flavors, very pleasant flavors. It's really nicely balanced. Moving on to Act 9, Scene 2. Same color. If anything, the smell for me is brighter. I get influence of grapefruit and lemon skin, lemon oils, as well as a little bit of baking spice, as well as a little bit of grain. I think there's a little bit more grain influence than the initial rye from Act 8.
Absolutely. The wood maturation effects on this one I feel like are a little bit more pronounced as far as the vanillin and the cloves that I'm getting. But still the classic baking spiciness of the rye is front and center.
Yeah, and there's also something interestingly maybe softer, like a marzipan influence with chalk or dust. There's a little bit of earthiness about it. For me, it's fruitier on the palate. I get fig and prunes with that influence of baking spice and clove and cinnamon, that rye spice that I love. Still ginger spice.
Oh yeah,
what else do you get?
For sure. On the palate, it's almost a little bit like creme brulee, I want to say. Something I'm getting.
Creamy vanilla, burnt sugar. I can see that. Still very, very nicely long finish. Very well balanced. They both have been right about the medium plus body as far as weight, viscosity wise. But you can definitely tell that they're different spirits. And lastly, our Act 10. I think for me the main difference between the prior two is this smells more like malt, actual malt, with a huge influence of honey.
Absolutely, I got that malted barley in here. I got some more coconut compared to the other releases. More caramel in and of itself.
Yeah, still raisins, baking spice, dates, dried fruits, but I see more malt, more honey influence, which is part of your caramel. You said.
I'm getting reminiscent of like a biscotti, like an Italian little cookie that you would eat with coffee.
Yeah, or Vinsanto.
Yeah, or Vinsanto.
And I also found on this one that I haven't seen before is something like cedar tobacco. It's a nice clean wood influence as opposed to something charred.
Super complex.
Palate for me tastes malty with some baking spice. There's a little more astringency, but not out of balance. Still pleasant, long finish.
Yeah.
Medium plus body. Complex. I would say they're all fairly complex, but if anything, this one has a little bit more nuance for me.
I would agree. I think the fact that they progressively add more of their own distillate for each release definitely adds to the complexity. Whereas, I mean, we're already on Act 10, or we started with Act 8. But if you can imagine way back to Act 1, I'm sure that was going to be 99% MGP, if not 100%. But the fact that it's hard to tell what percentage of their own distillate is in here, but the fact that it's progressively more, you can definitely feel the complexity from that.
Yes. And I don't know that it'd be easy to pinpoint a favorite.
No, they're all delicious. I think maybe the last one is my favorite, just because it is slightly, if only slightly, more complex.
Right. And more malty if you like that malt.
Yes. I love malt. So.
We have a puppy that's eager to taste some whiskey, so apologies for that puppy in a kennel, you know. But we're about to let him out, just like we are letting the dogs out. Let us know if you have any questions about this whiskey or any whiskey. I appreciate your feedback. You're welcome to put input into the channel. We'll make an episode happen for you. Depends on what questions you may have. Anything you want to add?
No, this was a great experience. Thanks for having me. I hope to be able to come back to the channel and do it again.
Oh, anytime. You're welcome. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe and like. Give Nick a like so he does come back.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Santé.